Welcome to another month of romance video. So today we're going to talk about subgenres, and I am so overwhelmed when I started trying to outline this so that I could talk about it. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's just get into it. So I'm going to try and break down romance novel subgenres. Now, please know, just like the rest of the series, this will not be an exhaustive list or an exhaustive discussion because I am not an expert. There are things I do not know about. There are also things that sometimes people would classify as, like I would classify as tropes, but other people might classify them as subgenres. You could get super nitpicky. You could get super granular. And I just, like, this video could go on forever. And I already feel like it's going to be way too complicated with the parameters I put on it. So generally, I think of the romance genre as an umbrella, where you have romance as like your big overarching thing. And then underneath it, you have branches. I'm going to try and put in some images here that may help you, may confuse you even more. I've already made one of the images. It hurts my brain to even look at it, but maybe it will help. So under this umbrella, what I've historically thought of as romance having three primary subgenres, and those are contemporary romance, historical romance, and paranormal romance. I do not include things like erotica or new adult or anything like that as a separate subgenre. Instead, I consider those like subgenres. So I think you can have erotica in any of those big three, what I would call big three, and then you can have new adult also in any of those three, if that makes sense. You have this umbrella with then these like little things, but you also have, or you could think of it as like a big confusing ass Venn diagram where there is tons of overlapping things. So yeah. So I'm gonna take a look. I'm gonna pull up my Venn diagram so I can talk about it a little bit. And I'll just have that up here so you can see it. So even in the Venn diagram, you can see that I have three big circles, and those are historical, contemporary, and paranormal, because to me, like I said, those are the three like big subgenres. And then you have where things overlap. So the other things that you could have, and like honestly, all of these things can basically happen in all of those big ones, but I kind of put them where they happen the most often in my experience, except erotica. I feel like erotica should really be in all three, and I don't know why it's not there. I'm not fixing it. I don't know. So you have your paranormal, which can break down into things like shapeshifters, mythology, vampires, your erotica, like I said. Your paranormal can also overlap with your historical. You can have historical paranormal. For example, an author that I read before, Teresa Medeiros, she has some like vampire historicals. I'm sure there's tons more. There's also steampunk historicals that I would kind of classify along the paranormal. I'd also put your fantasy in your paranormal. I did forget to put fantasy on here. I'm sorry. I'm a bad person. I'm a bad romance reader. That should have been like the theme song for the series. And then with your historicals, again, you have some of those other things, but you also have things like you can have your Regency. That's your pretty typical standard historical, what a lot of people think of. We'll get more into the Regency period in another video, how it is not a very long time period, yet a lot of books seem to take place during it. You have your American Western. That's another really big popular story time period and setting for historicals, especially I think in like the 80s and the 90s. You also have suspense, which can happen historical, and then you have inspirational. Inspirational tends to be the ones that you'll see that have a religious tone to them. They tend to not have explicit or any sex at all, whether on or off page. I've only read a couple. I've actually read one traditional inspirational and a couple Amish romances, so I don't have a lot of experience with that. And then you have your contemporary, which is where you can see a lot of inspirational. You can see suspense a lot there as well. So you see, this is like a whole bundle of crazy. and I tried to make it clear. Some other things, like I said, that people might consider in here, you have like your dark romance, which I guess is a subgenre. I don't know, I don't read it, so is it more of a trope? Is it more of a genre? I don't know, this gets confusing. I will say, as an important note, you will notice that I did not put on here things like MM romance, FF romance, any kind of LGBTQ plus representation, poly, anything like that as a subgenre, because to me personally, I don't consider that a subgenre. I don't consider that a trope. I consider that romance. So, like, romance is romance, y'all. Like, whoever is involved in it, as long as they are consenting adults, it doesn't matter. So that's why I don't put that in a genre breakdown. I think it's something that's important to talk about because I know people like being represented and reading more about themselves, but I personally wouldn't consider that a genre or anything like that. I would consider that just romance. Like, I don't really see the need to distinguish between like a straight and non-straight romance. But I guess that's not what I'm sure. Like I said, I do understand that some people like the representation, but I'm not gonna like avoid a book because it has like an LGBTQ character in it or an LGBTQ plus romance, whereas I most likely would avoid a romantic suspense because I just don't like me some romantic suspense, you know, but I'm just here for the love. So yes, like I said, there can be more breakdowns. You can have like your sports romance, your military romance, your whatever, mafia, taboo, all of those things, but I consider those more tropey, not genre specific things. If there's anything that you think I missed or is important to talk about, or you have a better way to organize this, let me know. And also just let me know what some of your favorite subgenres are. Like, are there some you really like? Are there some you like hate and won't read at all? And I will see you tomorrow. Bye.